to today's class. Again, we're looking at CPE writing. I have marked 2 essays for the CPE today. And so I wanted to look at, I wanted to justify my corrections and I wanted to justify my comments as well. So let's read through the task quickly. I'm sorry if my voice sounds a bit funny today. I've got a nasty cold, but let's carry on anyway. So we've got to summarize and evaluate these 2 texts in this question for the CPE. And that's very important because I think that the student in this case has made a pretty important or pretty major mistake, because I'm not so sure he did summarize text 1 very well. And it's just because I think he mentioned something which isn't in text 1. So that's why I definitely want to read the question this time. So let's have a look at the question. I'll read it aloud. So we've got to summarize and evaluate text number 1, looking back. And I'll make this bigger because you guys are probably thinking, how on earth am I meant to see that? Let's make it a bit bigger. That should make it much easier to see. So text number 1, looking back. Memories are undoubtedly precious to all of us. We can get a huge amount of pleasure and reassurance from the simple act of sitting down with relatives or friends and reminiscing about past events, whether they are amusing incidents from our childhood, teenage adventures, or turning points in our lives. Given this, it has to be said that we should be suspicious of any tendency in ourselves or others to fall into the trap of constantly comparing the present with the past. Surely it is better to be focused entirely on the here and now. Okay, so a little suggestion at the end that perhaps we should focus on the present rather than the past, yeah? And it does mention about we shouldn't constantly compare the present with the past. I want you to remember that because you'll see it becomes important soon. Okay, and the second text is remembering how it was. Memories are more than merely a source of delight. On a more profound level, they contribute to our sense of identity. All the experiences we have had make us the people we are today, and without our unique set of memories, we would be utterly different. It should not be overlooked that memories can also be unreliable and inconsistent. After all, as the police are well aware, 2 or 3 witnesses will often remember the same event in ways that flatly contradict one another. Even close relatives, such as siblings, will usually have strikingly different memories of a shared family holiday. Okay, so let's see how the student's done. And I'm going to have to come out a little bit, maybe go a little bit further in. That should be okay. So let's have a look. Is anybody here? So good morning, Ksenia. Good morning, Alia. Yeah, I remember you commenting a long time ago, Ksenia. Good morning. Good morning, Romelia. Good morning, Sarah. Good morning, Sam. And good morning, Yigitkan. For me, Yigitkan, Corona is a cold, okay? It's no different. It's just a respiratory illness that comes in and out every season. And yeah, if you want to talk about that, then yeah, we're not doing that today. So good morning, Mary. So let's keep going on. Let's have a look at what he's written. People recognize memories as something that plays an important role in their lives. Now, I might quickly mention here, because what I did was I was thinking this when I marked it. I haven't corrected it, because as far as I'm concerned, it's clear. But you ought to be careful about using a plural noun and a plural noun. Yeah, people is plural, memories is plural. And this there is actually referring back to the people and not the memories. But, you know, it was clear to me because memories don't have lives. Yeah, and so it was clear. But do be careful with pronouns because it's generally, you know, you may want to avoid having 2 plural nouns there. I think this one's very clear because memories don't have lives. But do be careful how you use your pronouns. Okay, and then he's got a nice correlative conjunction. He likes correlative conjunctions, this students, and he particularly likes either X or Y. So either you share with your friends funny moments, and then he's missed the relative pronoun that here. We can't miss the relative pronoun when it's the subject of the next verb in the relative clause, yeah? We can't miss it then, otherwise the relative clause doesn't have a subject, and we need that pronoun to have so that the relative clause has a subject. Yeah. So it must be in this one. So either you share with your friends funny moments that or which happened in the past. Now notice he's got a whole clause there, and this is important. He's joining this main clause, and there should be a comma there, so good boy. Either X, either whole main clause, comma, or whole main clause, and that's what we've got here. Or you think about your past to try to understand better who you really are, main clause. So you cannot use a comma here as the student did, because the next part is a main clause as well. And so that is a comma splice, where you're splicing together two main clauses with a comma, and it's not allowed. What you need is a semicolon. Yeah, a semicolon will make it correct. Semicolon, memories are a source of delight and interest. So that's why I've written down those two main clauses. Yet we ought to pay attention to compare. That sounded very strange to me. That was the most unusual piece of language. It's certainly not correct. You don't pay attention to compare. I really didn't understand even what that could mean. I suppose the student wants to say that we must make sure that we don't compare the present with the past, yeah, and make sure we don't trust our memories completely. Yeah, something like that, but you do not pay attention to compare. You can pay attention to something, yeah? Pay attention to plus noun, and never pay attention to plus infinitive. Pay attention to do, pay attention to have. I can't imagine how. Please, if you think that I'm wrong, always write something down, yeah, and tell me that I'm wrong, because I may be making a mistake, and so do let me know. But I don't think you can ever say pay attention to plus infinitive, as far as I can see. So that was certainly something that brought down the language mark. The language wasn't right there. So the present with the old days, and to trust completely. Yeah, you do trust in something sometimes, but most of the time it's just trust somebody and trust something. Yeah, I don't trust the news. Yeah, I don't trust what's written in the newspapers. Yeah, I don't trust my best friend, whatever it is. It doesn't matter if it's a person or a thing. It's usually without preposition. Now, I must admit that in some Old English, you may trust in something. You can. I have heard it, but it sounds odd here. Most of the time, you just trust something or trust somebody. Okay, let's keep going. So the first text suggests that memories are an important source of pleasure, but despite this fact, people have a tendency to compare the present with the past, claiming that the present days are better than the days in which our grandparents lived. Now, I didn't like this claim because I can't see this in text number 1. Does text number 1 say that the present days are better than the past? Let's have a look. Does it say that the present days are better than the past? Given this, it has to be said that we should be suspicious, blah, 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 fall into the trap of constantly compare. Okay, that's not the same. And surely it is better to be focused entirely on the here and now. Well, it's better to be focused on the present. Doesn't mean that the present is better than the past. It really doesn't. They're two completely different things. And so do be careful with how you summarize the text, because you've got to summarize and evaluate the two texts. And I think that you will lose marks for this, because the first text does not say the present is better than the past. It says we shouldn't focus on the present. But that doesn't mean, that you believe that the present is better than the past. So please be careful how you summarize the text. Don't make a summary that is incorrect. You'll lose marks there. Anyway, everybody makes mistakes, and I don't mean to belabor that point. So I do not agree with this tendency. Good colon. Namely, when I talk to my grandmother, she always says that when she was a child, she used to spend, or she would spend, but not she was used to spending. Yeah, don't mix up be used to plus gerund and used to plus infinitive or would for past events, something that was true but not true now. It's used to spend or would spend more time outside, hanging out with her friends and enjoying the sunny days. Nowadays, oh dear, I missed that. Nowadays, why do you do that? what are computers like sometimes? Well, I'm just going to have to do it like that. Nowadays, all the teenagers pass their time at home playing video games, not playing with, yeah, playing video games, playing football. You don't play with football. You play football, you play video games. Feeling alone and having no contact with the outside world. Now, I do like the parallel structure, playing video games, feeling alone and having no contact with the outside world. That's a list of 3 gerund phrases, so it sounds nice. The second text, oh dear. The second text raises the issue of the untrustworthiness of our memories. Although we can argue that memories are crucial to give us a sense of identity, sometimes what we remember is not what actually happened. Semicolon, conjunctive adverb, comma, very nice. Therefore, we ought to be more skeptical when we think about our past. When I think back to my childhood, not go back really, well, maybe in some situations, but think back works much better here. So I changed it. It sounds much better to me. When I think back to my childhood, I remember being a lonely child with only 1 or 2 friends. Semicolon, conjunctive adverb, comma, very good. When I talk to my mother about this memory, she says that I was a kid that enjoyed the company of friends and that I had plenty of them. So this makes me realize how different my childhood actually was. Oh my God. How did that get in there? Sorry. Typo, I think. Taking into account all these facts, I think we should be more careful when we trust our memories, not trust in our memories, just trust our memories. While memories have an important role when we think about ourselves, sometimes they are not reliable and we should not focus on them. Okay, content fairly good, and I took it down just because of that thing which I spoke about earlier. I didn't like one thing in the essay where I felt that the student had not summarized the essay correctly, the text correctly. I felt that there was an incorrect claim there, okay? But the rest I thought were all good, especially the organization. He's always got excellent organization. And there are very few errors, you know, I mean, used to and infinitive be used to, but plenty of appropriate vocab as well. But I took it down because of pay attention to compare. That sounded really off to me. Okay, how much time have we got? Am I going to split it into 2? Let's see if we can do it all in one. Let's have a look. Yeah, let's come back to here. You are the leader of a local youth group. You have been asked to write a report for your local website on social activities available for young people in your area. In your report, you should explain how 2 or 3 activities available locally help young people to interact socially. Available locally, interact socially. You should also assess the importance of social life in the personal development for young people. Okay, so 2 things you want to do, and he does all of this very well, although I thought that he could have elaborated just a tiny bit more for full marks on content. But I want you to notice that it says you are the leader of a local youth group and not a leader. And what that means is you are the one and only leader. So if you write a leader down here, I'm sorry, this is what the student's done, but you're going to suffer. So do look at the question carefully, and you can glean information from the question. And here it's got to be the, you know, it's got to be the leader here. So the aim of this report is to describe my experience as the leader of a local youth group. I have been the leader of the group, yeah, because we've just mentioned it once, a group, a local youth group, and so the second time we use the youth group for 3 years, and I will write about the 2 activities that are available in my area, explaining what young people do during these activities and why they are so important. Very clear start, very nice approach. I like it. Sport activity. The first activity that I want to talk about is the sport activity. We have a sport camp in our area that we use in order to help young people to play different sports because we think that sports are really useful. I think it's obvious you mean to them and not to someone else, to learn how to work in a team and how to get on with each other. I preferred the parallel structure of to learn how to do this and how to do that. Yeah. And you don't how to know others. You don't learn how to know somebody. You can only learn how to get on with somebody. And that is what kids do when they learn to socialize. So during football training, for example, young people learn how to play together. But more importantly, they learn social bonds that last after the training itself. They create social bonds that last after the training itself. A lot of them become friends. Now, I prefer present simple just because he's using present simple in all the other sentences. Yeah. For example, they learn, yeah, not have learnt, but learn how to play together. They create social bonds, and a lot of them become friends. It just works better with the other tenses. Yeah. A lot of them become friends, so they hang out I don't think you need together here, but it's not wrong. And so I've left it in. They hang out together at the weekend and they support each other during the matches. Not many mistakes. Well done. The other social activity available is the musical activity. In our area, we have a space for bands. I thought musical bands sounded odd, in which musicians can play together. So we took on music teachers that teach. I don't like teachers that teach, personally. So we took on music tutors that teach young people how to play several instruments, such as guitar or piano, and how to be. So I liked the parallel structure with the how to play and how to be coordinated when they play together. I think that playing music together is a perfect way to help youngsters to interact. Playing together means knowing your companions and being able to follow them when the group plays a song. That's good. The best music is performed only when all members follow the same tune. That's good. Assessment. All in all, I think these kind of activities, such as those I have mentioned, you don't use aforementioned as a verb. It's really only an adjective. In this report are really helpful for young people. When you are a teenager, it's important to get on with, establish close relationships with your peers. I didn't like grow up together with, just because I think it's obvious that we all grow up together with our peers. The only people that don't are people that are in awful situations, and that's really rare. And so we all grow up together. I think the student wants to make it clear here that he means it's important to establish lots of contact with your friends, social contacts, so that you may share the difficulties, and not so that to share. You can't say so that to plus infinitive. So that plus clause. So that is a subordinating conjunction. So you need a whole clause. So that you may share the difficulties and the joys. I like that. The difficulties and the joys. Good parallel structure of the experiences that you go through. Okay, so very good. Let's quickly have a look at the time. Okay, that's gone. We're still okay. So I thought the content was much better here. It's all relevant, certainly, and it does do, you know, he had to explain how the activities help young people interact, and also assess the importance of social life in the personal development of young people. And I thought that he did the first incredibly well, and the second, I thought he started to do it, but I felt like one extra sentence could have just definitely wrapped the whole thing up. And what do I mean? Well, I mean that he does discuss how sport and music enable kids to develop close relationship with their peers, and he does it really forcefully as well. So that's great. I thought that he could have just elaborated a bit more and pointed out something like this. Having good social skills is extremely beneficial in the adult world, because this shows us that social interaction is definitely extremely important, because it benefits us later in life. Yeah. For example, the world of work. I just think that one extra sentence, probably in the conclusion, would wrap the essay up really nicely and just show it tells the reader why developing such social skills is important in the development of every child. It's important because every child will be more successful in the future if they're able to interact socially to a large degree. And it is important. Think about how important it is at work. Yeah, I mean, most jobs you need to be able to interact socially. There aren't many jobs left where you're a light keeper and you're just all on your own for 12 months a year. So it's a very useful skill. Okay, I thought the communicative achievement was good. Very few mistakes, but article mistakes, and I thought they were unforgivable just because it was in the question, and I'm quite strict like that. If there's a mistake in the text and it's already in the question, you know, my son's training for an exam, and if he misspells a word and it's a word in the question, I always tell him off. Well, I tell him, you know, you shouldn't do that. Just look at the question. Okay, excellent organisation, like always. And language, I thought it was good, but there were a few peculiarities. Aforementioned is not a verb, really, it's an adjective. And musical band sounded odd, so I took a mark off there. But on the whole, very good. You know, as always, I want to say that all these essays I think are brilliant. And so well done to the student for writing such great essays. I think the main thing, which was the worst mistake, was to mischaracterize the text. Never do that. Always make sure you're really precise with your summary of the text. Okay, thanks everybody. I might come back for a lesson later, but that's all for the moment. Please go to my website, Skype-lesson